Philadelphia. This is our version of an Islamic country, right? These are black Muslims, right? And you gotta respect it. You feel me? I was born Muslim. And even the young brothers and sisters who are not Islamic, they still wear the garb and carry themselves Islamically here. And it shows you the power of culture, especially in the hands of our people. We utilize culture to advance civilizations. Cultures are created based off of intuitive traditions. You already know that you have to pray. You already know that there's something unseen that you have to speak of in order for you to create a link. So then you created elaborate rituals that people forgot the intuitive nature, but they remembered the ritual. Then the ritual became a religion. People forgot the ritual, but they have it intact in the religion. And then, unfortunately, when you are removed from the original language upon which any religion was constructed, you lose the purpose of the religion, you see? And then you infight, you see? So who understands clearly that there is a direct link between Islam and Judaism? Who understands that? Who understands that there are no new prophets introduced except for Muhammad in Islam as opposed to Judaism? They don't create any new prophets. They speak about all of the old ones, as well as their traditions. You see? So there's a link. And it's very powerful, this link. And it bespeaks of the great African ancestry and the fact that Africans are in control of the world right now. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, brother.
If you have the eye and the ear to understand what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about the phonetic fingerprints of the gods. Once you become aware of something, now you're responsible for it. And once you're responsible for something, you are now enamored with a sense of strength. You feel powerful now. You see? So now I'm going to equip you with some things tonight that will make you feel better about yourself. And that's essentially what this is all about. Now, we have one through line that connects all of us, and that through line is abuse. And where does abuse come from? It comes from a lack of communication, does it not? And there's several forms of abuse, several levels of abuse. It always derives from a lack of communication, coherent communication. We find it difficult to express ourselves efficiently. And no matter how many times you said you love somebody, the person that you said you love did something to hurt you. Or the people that were supposed to love you either weren't there or they didn't do everything that they were supposed to. Correct? So we are very delicate creatures in this world. And I'm going to tell you, biochemically, you were created to get high. You know, I'm speaking plain tonight. And you already have the receptors for dopamine in you. If you didn't have the receptor, you wouldn't have an inclination towards cocaine, marijuana, and heroin. They are inherently built in you to protect you. This is a rough world. When you were young, when you were running and you used to slip and fall, or if you hit your elbow on something, people say, oh, I hit my funny bone, right? Now, if you didn't have dopamine inside your body, your life would be a travesty. The Creator supplanted within this existence balances that all cohere on the point of perception. So you live in a perfect world. Your world is perfect. You are complaining about your lack of understanding the dynamics of it. And with the lack of understanding, you have no power. You see? When you gain understanding, and this is dealing with wisdom, right? When you take off the periphery, and this is why my style of teaching is that I come dressed in the garb of the people. I come from the streets, and I know that your kids is not going to listen to nobody in a dashiki. They're not going to listen to nobody dressed up in a suit. When they leave school, they don't even want to hear what you're talking about. They are on their devices. Turn your phone, put your phone on vibrate now. I'm going to do it too. No. They are on their devices speaking to the kids they just left. Right? Because they are building emotional connections with their peers. You see? Now, if I come to a community and I come to your kids and I ask your kids, like if I'm an alien to their society and I say, take me to your leader, they're not going to take me to you. They're going to turn their music on and they're going to take me to their vision of who is about it. And 9 times out of 10, it's somebody that you perhaps might not like. You heard? So if you want to address the situation, let's stop fronting. You can't dress up. You can't put perfume on S-H-I-T. You got to clean it up and throw it away. You understand? So I'm starting from the root in my dialogue. I'm not blaming white folks for the maladies that I see in the social construct. That's played. We could do that another 50, 60 years. That's played. We are in an endeavor to understand that which is, we want to read every book that we can while we are alive. Because when you look at me, what you're looking at is books that my mother read. You're looking at the study that my daddy had. You're looking at a child from the, my mother and father was First Resurrection, NTG. My mother was NGT, GCC. And my father, his name was Bobby Clark. He changed his name to Muhammad because of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All of his friends was heroin addicts and dope fiends. My mother's from Brownsville. Brooklyn, Brownsville is just like Newark, Camden, Philadelphia. It's the same thing. You understand? Infant mortality rates, super high, up to 13 to 20 children per 1,000 die. You heard? Why? You see? So, I come under the influence and the premise that the people who are going to change the world as you know it are the people at the root of the tree. And your consciousness movement stands on the shoulders of street people who don't know about us. I don't know what we're talking about. Because you got these people here who will get in front of you and tell you that they are the leaders of a black community. And what is if this is the black community, it's only 20 of us here, 30 of us here. You understand what I'm saying? So let's be real with words. You understand? Let's be real with words. Now, we are already leaders of humanity. Do you understand that? Every symbol in the classical mind, presently existing in people's mind, belongs to our psychology first. All we have to do is change the meaning of the symbols, and it will be like pulling the rug from up under everybody. You understand? Now, the way that we have been enslaved is through fear, and fear has been implanted based off of interpretation of symbolism. You see? If I show you a 5-pointed star, if I show you a cross, you think about death, but you be like this, oh. But if I show you a 5-pointed star, you think it's Satan. You see? So what we're talking about today is, we're going to talk about the phonetic fingerprints of the gods. I believe that if you follow the drum, you can find the people. If you hear somebody beating the drum, you remember when you was little, you hear the block party? It's a block party somewhere. Where's that? Yeah, you just follow the music. The phonemes, or the words that you presently use, are a part of an intact spiritual system that has never left the planet. It is fully functioning and it works. You all are victims, all of us, of interpretation. You see? Very excellent article by the National Geographic showing the evolution of the Bible from in its effect on the English language. Things that you say that you never knew where it came from the Bible. This book has some of the greatest influence on when somebody says by the skin of my teeth. You ever heard of that? That's biblical. Be horribly afraid. You heard that? You see that in movies, right? They'll say be horrible. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 37. Be horribly afraid. Right? That's biblical. Pour out your heart. Come on, pour out your heart. It comes from the Bible. So your psychology has never been tampered with, only the translation has shifted it. You see? So now we're going to discuss, and it's taken me 6 years to get to the point where I can coherently draw out the biblical construct for you to actually see it is a geometry at work. There's something else going on. You see? So this is the part 2 of this presentation. The part 1, excuse me. You all need water. Everybody needs water. When you think you're hungry, you're really thirsty. A lot of times. And a lot of arguments start when people don't drink water. You know that? You can always get to the root of a situation. And people say break bread, but drink water too.
Without no water, there's no life, bro.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now, let's begin. And I brought some props up here as well to encourage people to indulge. This cup is a little funny style. I brought some props up here. This is one of my initial introductions to consciousness. I read this book in prison. I did 9 years, 8 months, and 13 days. And I used to be a knuckle dragging, like I was the lowest of the low. And this was my formal introduction to feeling empowered. This gentleman made me into a grown man and made me add 5 words to my vocabulary each day, and also introduced me to world and global politics. George Jackson is a legend. And this is one of his magnum opuses as well, Blood in My Eye. This is where he cultivated his ideology and gave a blueprint for Black power. And then many of us have been able to experience the great work of Brother Amos Wilson. And his blueprint for Black power is about 10 of George's and more coherent and to the point. You know what I mean? And directing the current of consciousness towards an empowerment. Now, this is how the rest of the world empowers themselves in the way that you used to. This is how they get the biggest points across, through imagery. Now, all of a sudden, angels and demons. All of a sudden, nobody could talk about masonry back in the day. People wasn't even having those type of conversations. And this is a phenomenon that I'm going to demystify for you right now. It only happened because a large majority of Freemasonic books lost their copyright coverage over it. You only get 70 years after the death of the author for the copyrights to be protected. When all of those ancient guys died, all of their work became open market. So now this a thriving business with Dan Brown taking Masonic literature and creating elaborate stories. Now you have all of these books where the key of Solomon, the key of Hiram, the this or the that. And everybody wants to be a Mason. And now everybody's saying Jay-Z's a Mason. Very interesting. You heard? Now, I'm a Mason, but I'm not in the Illuminati. I don't have no money. My lodge was a bunch of bus drivers. All I could get is a free ride on the bus. So Masonry is about quality of membership. You understand the point? There's nothing really mythical about it unless you're a Kabbalist. You will not extrapolate anything significant out of Freemasonry unless you indulge yourself into reading the Bible from a mystical standpoint. And if you honor African cosmology, you might get a little extra out of it. You see? Now, early earlier, in my early presentations, I was showing people books like this, books with degree work. Many of us walk past these books, and the reason why some people don't buy them, only really Masons buy them, or people who are interested or just want to have the material to say they have it. People will buy these books and don't understand what's at work. Rituals are for your psychology. Do you understand that? They are to, they're like what a mechanic is to a broken car. A ritual comes in and fixes your mind so that your vehicle can drive at a specific rate and be able to effectively exist within your construct. Okay? So, how this is something that's not foreign to any consciousness. This is something that lives within everybody's mind. You need a ritual to be sentient and to be sane. A lot of the insanity in our community comes from a lack of spiritual knowledge regarding ritual. If you don't have a ritual, if your mommy and them did not give you a rites of passage, you have been indoctrinated. These are your rites of passages. These are the heroic myth legends in your psychology. This was one of a very powerful image in the time that it came out. This created almost a fervor for vigilantism in New York City, taxi driving, where Martin Scorsese went into the mind of a taxi driver who hears all of the filth and the garbage of New Yorkers. He's driving around politicians who are cheating on their wives. He's privy to the world of child pimpery, where they're pimping children, right? Now I'm going to show you something very powerful about this film. Someone watched this film 15 times in a row and then shot Ronald Reagan.
That's right.
Do you know why he did that? Because he wanted to get Jodie Foster's attention. And Jodie Foster, you know her from Silence of the Lambs, Agent Starling, right? So 15 times was his ritual of being supplanted with imagery and a sequence of stories in the story. You live a sequence of stories every day. You wake up early in the morning, be fogged a little bit, then you wake, and then you address, if you have children is waking you up early and like, I'm hungry. This is ritual. So you have to be a hero. You got to get up and you got to save the day. Then, unfortunately, if you have to go work, if you don't like your job, some people like the job, some people don't. If you don't like your job, you have to go through that. You have to get in game just to deal with that. Who works in a corporate office setting with all them people you don't like? You know they don't like you. You don't like them, but it's protocol. You got to go in there and you got to be like, hey, guys. So that takes a little bit from you each day. You see, that's the ritual. Then I remember in the 80s, they had a film called Weird Science. My uncle took me to see this in Florida. I saw it twice. Very interesting. They used the computer to create anything that they wanted. This is the present context that they're doing that now. And this film right here is the equivalent of a visual Bible. The point that I'm showing you is that popular culture and in the Western world follow mythic cosmology. All of these heroes are the same in every one. They all do the same thing. By the end of the film, they all win. The woman, the sun sets, the enemies are all dead, and the moral dilemmas are all cleaned up. The bad guy shoots somebody, you think he's going to live the whole movie, he dies. They all play out a myth. This is West African Spider-Man. Come on, Anansi. You see? So when you understand everything from a symbolic reference, you now control that which you understand via responsibility. You are responsible for what you learn. Now, after showing my props, let me begin the visual presentation. Okay. Now, this is what my notes look like. What does this look like? Is this coherent to you? It isn't. It looks crazy, right? This is how they wrote the Bible. This is how they wrote the Bible. Your Bible is composed of prime number equivalencies and perfect number equivalencies. You are have you ever seen a very beautiful woman, brothers? What you're seeing is divine proportion. The person who is the object of your love and your desire, when you look at them, they have a golden proportion. It sits somewhere in the center of their face. It begins like right here. But what is it that makes you love your wife or sisters love your husband? When you look at them, you view them. There's a sacred geometry at play. Do you understand that? It's mathematic, and your brain understands it. Your brain understands it, but it's mathematics. Now, what if I tell you that your ancestors knew all about that, but they wrote stories using that same proportion? And this is why the story is still here, because it's so powerful, the story, that it could never go away. And there are constants in the story that are always there, but you don't know they're there because you don't challenge the language. You see? There is a constant in the story that says that some of those prophets in the Bible, they get done dirty. They remove both their eyes. They get removed by puppet kings, a fake king. Somebody comes in, kills them, and then they say they died because Jehovah didn't like them no more. But they still honor them and call them prophets, right? Samson committed the sin of suicide. They don't harp on that or speak about that. Did you ever hear that? He brought down both of the pillars in the temple upon himself as well as the Philistines. How is he connected to the pillars?
Chains.
Visually, artists will show us chains, but the language tells us either serpents or bronze. Ain't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that the ancients made no distinctions between the word for serpent and the word for bronze? They made no distinction. It's the same word. So, meaning, therefore, that you would have to be in on the joke, or you would have to have been initiated, or you would have to have gotten the memo, you see, to understand what the symbolisms entail. There is also a prevalent myth involved in the story where they say at the destruction of the temple, they removed the pillars. You see? Now, after looking at this very clearly, people who are familiar with my work is kind of like on the margin. You would have to have heard about me to hear about the work, like the inner work with the books and whatnot. But I wrote a book called The Pillars that I put as an addendum into other books, and they were limitedly released, where I was describing and showing people that the ritual for 9/11 was a ritual to enact a union of everyone's consciousness on the planet, utilizing what is called awe, shock and awe. If I took out a stick of dynamite and I lit it right here, that is something, if you survive that, that is something you would never forget for the rest of your life. You would never forget it. You would forget everything that I said before that. You might forget me, but you won't never forget that instance, because you are hardwired to remember based and learn based off of appearances, you see, and how things affect your hormones, you see. So if you are under shock and awe, what occurs is you release hormones into your bloodstream directly that align the way you formulate your thoughts from that point on. So now the imagery that I'm showing you here comes specifically from how, in fact, the brothers and sisters who composed the biblical construct created a cosmology based off of numerics, as well as a coherent knowledge of ancient motifs and sounds. So now we know that a sound is what am I doing when I create a sound? I'm disturbing the medium. What's the medium that I'm disturbing? Air. So what I'm doing is I'm also creating geometry as I speak. When I speak to you, I'm creating a geometry. If I say your name, if I say Ali, right? I'll call you, and I'm calling you, and you say, yes. You resonated with the geometry, yes? And this is how we created our gods. We would listen to that which would give us shock and awe. Thunder, the sound of thunder became what? That's a god. Look what it did to my body. I feel it. I'm afraid. So we would create that into a god, and all those gods would become different perceptual passports for us to experience that. We'll know, okay, that, and then we'll create gods and whole cosmologies and stories about it. So our psychology can be not fragmented, but embraced in the experience. So we know that, because nobody ever blames a tsunami when a tsunami comes and kills, right? Does anybody blame the tsunami? Do people stop drinking water when somebody in their family drowns? If somebody in your family passed away by getting drowned, what do you be like? You know what? You drowned my peoples. I'm not even drinking water no more. Do people do that? No. They don't. What they would do is they would create an elaborate psychology, an elaborate myth to describe what happens when water takes your life, or something of that extent. Correct? So now, the phonetic fingerprint of the God. And let me show you what when I mean cosmology. Let me show you the God of the Bible. This here is the God of the Bible. You see this? That's the God of the Bible. It's called Ein Sof Or. Now, Ein means, I see people shaking your head. What does it mean? Go ahead. No, go ahead, share it with us from your studies. What do you gather from it?
So I remember the symbol of it coming from the cosmos.
Right. When I say Ein Sof Or, what do you hear? This is the phonetic fingerprints of the gods. Phonetics is sound. Ein Sof Or. What do you hear? Or. You hear what? Asar. How do you say the number 10 in Hebrew? Everybody got a Bible. Everybody's Bible was first written in Hebrew. Everybody done read the Bible. Grandmama and everybody know about the Bible. Everybody been in the church. Everybody got a cousin down south that's Christian still and everything. How do you say the number 10 in Hebrew? Ask somebody that know how to say, that speaks Spanish. How do you say the number 10 in Spanish? Now, why is the word Diez also synonymous with the word for God in Latin as well? How do you say deity? You're saying a number. Now that is a fingerprint of the gods. That's something that was originally African in construct. You say the number 10, Asher or Asher in Hebrew. Now, when I say Hebrew, Hebrew is equivalent to the Commission term psychologically for niggas. The Commissions called everybody that wasn't from Egypt Apiru. Apiru. Everyone that wasn't Egyptian was an Apiru. You're an Apiru or a Zagas. That's the only terms that they had for them. A Zagas and an Apiru. So now what happens when people who are citizens of Egypt or people who have an idea, let's say, yo, we're gonna create a gang. You heard? We the priesthood. We're gonna create a gang because we got several thousand dudes that's gonna get extremely busy. You heard? The only way that we're going to actually be able to do this, though, this is my homiletics. This is how I'm explaining it to make it easy for you to understand. Listen, the only way we're going to have to do this, though, we're going to have to enforce this story. Well, it better be a good story. So let's take the existing body of work that's present. Let's take the sounds that are already present, right? And then we're going to create an elaborate story. But this is how we're going to make the story link, and it ain't going to be a corny story. We're going to make it based off of number sciences. You heard? So even if they change the story and translate it, the original story is something totally different that only you and I know. You feel me? So now the Ipiru became the Hebrew, and it became a word spelt like this. This is how you see it. And then people be telling you, yo, we the Hebrew Israelites. And they be yelling at you with the book, yelling at you, talking about the Haitians is this tribe, the Dominicans is this tribe. That's an elaborate construct. You heard? That is something that humanity requires. It requires for it to make up elaborate myths. Who in here believes that W.D. Fard, everybody will say that they love being pious, they love the Nation of Islam, and they love the great things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has offered us. We are all citizens and recipients of that great movement, but it's built off of an elaborate myth. It's something that people have always done. They have come in the guise of the prophet and the God. A Jew by the name of Sabbatai Zevi did it in the year 1666, declared himself a prophet, declared himself the Messiah, and then had a prophet named Nathan of Gaza. Two people. Who's 5% here? Allah and justice. Peace, Allah. It's the same construct. And this is how it goes. This is how it goes. So now, when you see Hebrew, you're seeing an elaborate mythology that's based off of a cosmology that's based off of biology. Hebrew is spelled like this. These are archetypes. Your language doesn't have archetypes. When they taught you when you was little, they used to say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but never explained to you what each letter was. Never gave you a numeric equivalency for each letter. They never told you that A is nothing but an ox upside down. What is this? An A upside down with a line and it look like an ox, don't it? Right? Put a ring in the nose. It's an ox. Ain't it? But they never told you that because they don't want no functional psychology. They don't want no functional psychology. In fact, your education system was created by and for deaf mutes. Did you know that? The Sally ran down to all of that way of Jack and Jill went up the hill. That's for deaf mutes. It was to syncopate sound and vibration with their braille. You heard? You see? This is how we used to learn. They called themselves a function. They said that the ayin means I. The bet in language means in. And the resh means head. So they said Hebrew or people, and the concept was that they cross over. A Iburu is something that crosses over. Like they always show you in the biblical construct where prophets come to a body of water, and then one says something slick to the other, he responds, and then he does something slick, and they step over the ford, right? They're stepping over waters. You see? So now what they're doing is they're describing for you how you perceive and how you're connected to the cosmos. You're connected to the cosmos with what? Who in here has an eye in their head? Y'all with me?
Everybody.
Who in here has an eye in their head? Who in here has an eye in their head? What is your eye in your head? When you close your eye, when you close these eyes right here, and you still hear me with your eyes closed, you can still see me, can't you? Visualize your mommy's face. Visualize mommy's face with your eyes closed. You can do it. You have an optic nerve that operates and is synced directly to your thinking. It doesn't need the vestigial eyes. These eyes will fool you every time. These eyes are here to fool you. They're here for you to think that you can't fly. Perceptually, to make these eyes are what creates artificial time. You create time based off of the distance you perceive yourself to be from one place to the other. When you say, what time you gonna get here? People, that's the most uncomfortable question. People don't like to answer that, and people invariably lie. They say, yo, Lord, I'm 12 minutes away. You know you're 25 minutes away. 12 minutes away. You know, I'm 15 minutes away. You creating a bridge that it's not even real. Our time is based off of cycles. Now, very interesting when I said, let me go and challenge the text. My favorite book in the Bible is the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, Daniel's name changes to Belteshazzar when he comes to a city called Babel. Now why? Why is his name Belteshazzar when he gets to the city of Babel?
Because they were in captivity. People captive changed his name.
Let's think about it this way. Who's ever been in New York City? Do it feel the same way that Philly feels?
No.
When I come to Philly, I relax. I have coherent thoughts. I'll be like, man, I used to say I wouldn't even mind dying here. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why I always speak about dying is because I'm a Scorpio. I'm actually infatuated with the concept that I don't no longer have to eat. I don't no longer have to feel pain. And that all my stories, my ancestors told me I'm going back to the heavens. And I'm going to be there as a way station for you. And I could watch y'all. I'm going to be dead. I'm going to see all the stuff y'all do. Because your ancestors see everything you do. You better be doing the right thing. You worrying about what I'm going to say. You better worry about what the homies is going to say that passed away, that you still channeling them. They there and they can see you. And you doing that? You see? So I love the concept that our people say you don't have to be afraid of nothing, because once you go, somebody coming in of the likeness. You see? So now when I go and challenge the text, I say, there's a lot of stuff going on here. The man's name is Belteshazzar because Babel, when they say Babylon, in certain cultures, if I say Babylon, my West Indian brothers and sisters, they think I'm calling about the police. Right? They say Babylon is down there. Anything bad is Babylon. Right? And this comes from their socialization of dealing with the biblical construct in their culture. You heard? They call, based off their understanding of the Bible and the text, they saying that is the place of confusion, right? Babels, cities of Babylon, right? That's an understanding of their approach to the New Testament. You see? Now, when you go and challenge the language, the word Babel is spelt like this. Now, I already told you this means in. Bit, bet. Whenever you hear the sound B, it means in. And what is the number 2? It equals the number 2. What is the number 2 in the universe? What does the number 2 that does that no other number does?
It's an even number.
It's the only even prime number in the universe. The only even prime number in the universe. This is why it's synonymous with women. See? Right? The gods know the wisdom. It's second. Men make mistakes when wisdom comes before knowledge. When a man tries to be wise before he's knowledgeable, what happens? You see? See, the gods have a fully functional cosmology because they got numbers associated with letters. So words mean different things in their mind than people, regular people. This is how you spell Babylon. Now, it's only 3 letters. So it equals, this is the letter Lamed. It means discipline. It means constraint. Now, a Lamed is an ox goad. You know what an ox goad is? If you were a farmer and you had ox on your farm, would you let the ox come in the house? Would you just let it just graze any old kind of way outside? It'll start eating up everything, all type of stuff. It might eat the produce, right? So the ox goad is something that they put on the ox to guide it. You see? So now, that's the very function of the sound L. When you hear L, when you hear that sound L, it means discipline. Now, what happens when you pronounce L? What happens when you pronounce L? Go L. This is why it's in all of the major gods. L, Allah, Elohim, El. What happens? You connect the female and the male part of your bodies. One of the sides of your body in the front is male and the other is female. The back, like you connect them like this, and you create a charge. You ever, when you was little, you wanted to see if the battery worked, you put your tongue on the battery. How is it that you can receive the charge from the battery? You must have electrical circuitry in your mouth, right? Why is it that a baby is born instinctively? The very first thing that a baby wants when it comes out is to perform the sucking reflex. The first thing that the baby goes to look for is a circle with a dot in it. A breast. It came out of a circle, the baby, right? When it was crowning, coming out of mommy, right? And the first thing that it wants is a breast. Why? Instinctively. Why? Why does the Bible start in a garden and they're eating food? You see? So, Babel is in Baal. Now, who's ever heard of the god Baal? Baal. Now, what is it saying? It says in control, in discipline. You see? They named that specific city cosmopolitan complex because that was the preoccupation of cities. The preoccupation of cities is to control people via calendar systems, which is a commercial system, and traffic through ritual. You understand that? Lunch is a ritual, getting up in the morning, catching the first train to go to work, calendar systems, being off on Friday. It's all a ritual, all right? So now, Belteshazzar, when I go say, okay, all words in the Bible is numbers, cool. Let me go see what Belteshazzar equals. If they change his name to Belteshazzar, let me see what it equals. I go and I do the numbers, it equals this number. Now, when I go and I look at this, this equals 2 plus 2 plus 30. And 2 plus 2 plus 30 equals what? What?
120.
2 plus 2 plus 30 equals what? Okay, so when I go and I add 34 to his new name, Belteshazzar, in Babylon, why does it equal 666? And why haven't any of the Christians and the evil, the people saying the evil, the demonic stuff, why haven't they brought this and enlightened you on this fact if it's so evil, the number that is? Why haven't they ever told you that about or why or explained it? Why does Sheba give King Solomon 666 talents of gold?
Why?
Why? It's in the Bible. They never demonized it. So is this book really what you think it is, a historical context? No, it's not. But why does it dominate us so much? You are in game. You ever hear that from the streets when people say that? Oh, they got you in game. They put you in game, man. You know, it's a spiritual con game that you are taking literally. It's the pigeon drop 6,000 years later. So now when I go and I say, well, they keep calling, Nebuchadnezzar says in the book of Daniel, he says, yo, I want the sharpest kids to come teach my kids all of the science. And I said, let me go see in the language, what is he talking about? The people that they talking about, they call them Chaldeans. So I said, let me find out what Chaldean means. Obviously, as you can see, it means Cush. Now, what does Cush mean to you? What is the Cushite Empire?
Ethiopia.
Exactly. So, wherever Babylon was, or wherever Babel was, or whoever Nebuchadnezzar is, he is distinctively saying that he is not as intelligent, has the fortitude or the science of these people from Cush. Now, this is a fingerprint of the gods in your face that they don't tell you about. They are telling you that Africans are smarter than everybody in the whole world. Right there in the Bible, but they hide you in these catchphrases like a Chaldean. What is a Chaldean? When I did further research on the term Chaldean, Europeans made the word Chaldean mean somebody that's stupid. They call them clod breakers. In the Hebrew, it says that they're intelligent, sharp. Once the European got a hold of it, transfixed the words and turned them into English, now it means you're stupid. The phonetic fingerprints of the gods is redeeming the Bible to its construct. So now, this is where, in my opinion, much of the cosmological stories that veer off into sorcery come from. When you go to the writings of the Commissions, they say, where are the children of Asar now? And they say the children of Asar are in the West. You see, this whole region of West Africa, in my opinion, is responsible for much of the cosmology that the Bible is constructed of. And the reason why I say that is, in Senegal, they speak a language called Wolof. And Wolof consists of up to 4,000 words. They're able to say everything that they need to say in 4,000 words. Isn't that great? Right? The reason why we are always arguing is because we got 80,000 words. That's if you were a little kid. That's the little kid dictionary. After you go up into, they say the college edition, right? The university, Oxford edition, whatever edition. That's when it's 250,000 words. And who's ever seen the super dictionaries that the professors have where they need a magnifying glass that they scan over the book because the letters are so small, where words like fair have over 15, 20 meanings. Fair, like pay the fare, her skin was fair, be fair. You understand where I'm going? So now, their language, Wolof, is the closest language to the Meduneter. So now, interesting, they are Muslims in Senegal. Those is Muslims. You know the Muslims who sell the dun-dun-dun clothes out here? You know the jeans. You know, brothers ain't, I ain't going to Neiman Marcus. I'm going right down there. Abdullah got the thing. He got the True Religions. He got the, I'm going over there. I ain't finna give Ralph Lauren that money. I'm going to get my polo hoodie right there. Right? He came over here to get a bankroll. But let me tell you something. In New York, they got the brothers who do the movies, the bootleg the movies. I'm in there one day. Somebody was down there and stole his phone. He got on the phone, somebody else's phone, and called Africa and told the person asked him, obviously, yo, who was in there, who stole the phone? He said, yo, I think it was this dude. He said, what did he have on? And he told him the clothes that the person had on. He was like, wallahi, I'm going to get my phone back. Or whoever stole my phone, something bad going to happen to them. You heard? So, when I was a practicing Muslim, they always try to intimidate you, the more Arab-esque brothers, you heard? They try to intimidate you, talking about that's bid'ah, Akhi. You making that up. There's no innovation in Islam. And I'm like, man, you ain't never been nowhere. You ain't never been nowhere. Go to Africa and talk about that. And get sick in Africa, they going to take you to a shaman. Yeah, he's Muslim too, but he's a shaman. You heard? Now, why was it? Don't try to make it seem like my peoples are soft and they just accepted Islam because they ain't have nothing else to do. They accepted Islam for trade reasons and for the financial onus that was in the world at the time. You heard? The language of commerce and trade and merchantness was Islamic. You heard? That's what they encapsulated it in. So they are speaking the Medu right now in their original language. And they understand the Islamic paradigm, and they make up magic with the Islam. People been telling you for years that the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill is Egyptian. It deals with Egypt and all that. That comes from an Islamic talisman for love. Okay? It comes from an Islamic talisman for love. Okay? Let me show you something. Let me show you something.
Didn't we create Islam, no brother?
Absolutely.
That Ma'at predated Islam?
Absolutely. That's that's not even in the debate, but we're not debating with that. We created, my thing is we created everything. So I don't never have debates. You heard? I get right to it. Okay, what are you saying? I made that up, I made that up, I made that up, and that. You could debate about it if you want. You heard? Which one is best? That's your business. If I made everything up, I beat everything to the chase. So, very interesting. People always ask me, where does the tree of life come from, Rashid? Where does this come from? When people see this, and the tree of life emanates directly from a biblical verse in the book of Chronicles. I never showed nobody this before because it wasn't relevant to people. 6 years ago, people were like, what the hell is Kabbalah? No one was referencing it. And if people spoke about it, they spoke about it and people walked away like, I got to get that Kabbalah. That sounds like a good book. That Kabbalah is a good book. Then for years, people was like, I read the Kabbalah, the principles, the 7 principles of the Kabbalah. I know that. And they talking about the Kabbalion. You heard? Then you got people running around with the Kabbalion like, yo, this is deep. This is deep. I don't deal with that masonry. But I deal with this Kabbalion, but the Kabbalion was written by 3 Masons. Okay? The 3 initiates was 3 Masons. And then it's William Walter Atkins, Paul Foster Casey, and another pilgrim. You heard? That was a Mason. Okay? So, in Chronicles, 29:11, it says, thine, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the glory. They translate glory. You know, these words are interchangeable in English. It is impossible to translate Hebrew into English. You are just pointing at it with these terms that they use. All that is in the heavens and in the earth is thine, in thy kingdom, Lord, and thou art exalted head above all. Now, all of these terms are prime number equivalencies. These prime number equivalencies create this design, a very elaborate one at that all meet in this area of the tree of life, which create. This is me saying like this. You ever seen when you was little, they had these things like this, your mama and them be trying to make you be quiet, you on a road trip, they saying do something. So they got the thing like this with all of the dots, right? Right? The dots, and then this one is 1, this dot is 2, this one is 3, and then all you gotta do is follow the dots, and then you, oh look, I can draw, right? And then you start saying, I like that. As you grow older, you don't need the dots or the numbers. You can just draw now, right? Same principle with what your ancients did. They put designs inside of the content. You heard? Your book starts, there's a reason why the God in the Bible, see Yahweh, his name ain't Yahweh until you get to Genesis 2, chapter 4. Before that, his name is Elohim, or its name is Elohim. Because Elohim is nothing but L, which means power. L, which means power or light or strength. The he acts as a doorway in symbol literacy. El, he, and then yam, which is what? Water. So light, this is what God is. Light and he in language is synonymous with and yam is water. So when you open your mouth, when you're talking, I'm vibrating to you geometry within the construct of water and light. What's the light? The light is the heat energy. Put your hand in front of your mouth and breathe on it. Not only is you going to smell how your breath smells, you're going to feel the warmth, right? Don't you feel the warmth? That's the heat energy. So Elohim is, so heat energy is nothing but, Elohim is nothing but the combination of those two concepts. Now why is Elohim mentioned a number of 32 times? Why is that word 32? Why is the very first word in the Torah begin with the number 2 and the last begin with the number 30? They encapsulated the whole book in that number 32 because there is a 2-3 ratio in all pentagrams. They put a pentagram inside the context and the story. And the reason why the story had to begin at the tree of life is because if I take an apple or any fruit that grows from a plant, and plants, blades of grass, everything grow at a 3-2 ratio. Have you ever seen speeded up photography? You wonder, I just seen them flowers last night. They was blooming. Now they're closed. That's a living organism that's responding to heat and water energy, light and water. And this is what sustains your existence. So do you not think that you are the same in that respect? So let's stop underestimating our ancestors. They were the masters of observation. They do the knowledge. They was like this. I'm going to create an elaborate story. I'm not making nothing up. I'm just going to look at what's present and just go off of that. And that's what they did. Now, they got the whole world afraid of an upside down star. You afraid of a 3-2 ratio. The Bible say don't worship sorcery, but the sorcery use the Bible. Right? Now, this is something, it took me 6-some years. Imagine you ain't never heard of Kabbalah and somebody come and freak this one on you. You heard? What you talking about? You see? Now, when I cut open an apple, what do I find in the center of an apple? This is an apple, and look at how the seeds sit up in there. They sit up in there according to a specific sacred geometric construct. That if you eat, if they say you are what you eat, you're all 5-pointed stars. You see? When you eat something, you encapsulate its geometry. Getting high ain't nothing but you playing with geometries of different crystalline substances. Anybody that indulges in cannabis knows that you get higher off of weed if you eat it. Smoking it is just some cultural thing that people be doing. Eat a bag of weed, and you'll be like, whoa! It's a whole different experience. You understand?
Bro, not to interrupt, but I live in West Philly, right?
Yes, sir.
The police pulled a brother over. This is 1979. He had a bag of weed in a manila joint, big like a diamond. The police said either I'm gonna take your weed or you gonna eat it. What you want to do? He was eating like it was imminent. He was like, I'm looking out the window at this. I'm like, this boy's really eating a bag of weed like that.
And you know what happened to him after that? He was happy. He was happy. He was happy. And food affects your psychology, does it not?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever eaten a piece of fruit and felt calm and cool in the summertime? Now, here is the 3:2 ratio in the center of the fruit. Look at that. And here are the terms that are inside of 1 Chronicles 29. Now look, this term here is called Hageldula. Geldula means, you ever had a bankroll and you was like, man, I'm going to see so-and-so and them. They ain't got no money. I'm going to give them some money today. They need it, right? What if you felt like that all the time? Would you have anything? Would you have anything? What if you gave all your money away? Would you have anything?
Yes.
No.
You wouldn't have nothing. You wouldn't have nothing. In fact, people will begin to start calling you a fool. Your children will begin to hate you. Why are we homeless? And you got a job. You gave all your money away. Now, across from that is an hagebora. That's no. Hell no. I don't got it. I ain't got it. Hey, brother, can you spare some change? Man, you too big to be begging. You know, like that. You know, that's that attitude. But however, something very interesting. They coalesce in the center in something called Al-Hatifare, which means beauty. So what they're telling us is that you have to have incorporated in your psychology, you got to be pulling from both directions. You have to know when to be merciful and when to be stringent. And like, no. Who came here in the vehicle, in the car? Who came in the car? Now, the way that you got here is from combustion. Who came on the bus? Combustion. What if you poured the gas in the car and when you hit the gas like this, the pedal, all the gas runs out the car? Would the car go anyplace? It's a sequence of yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Combustion. Within the construct of space that creates a force. You can't go nowhere if you always saying yes, 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 yes. You're going to dissipate. And if you're always saying no, 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 those are gender-specific concepts in the universe. No is female. And male is yes. Men is always like this. Yeah. Yeah, yes. You don't never see men like this. No, baby. No, baby. No, baby. No. No, baby. Have you? Men is always like this. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, come over. Right? Women is like, they like, not today. I don't know. Let me think about it. No. You see? But the beauty is within what? When those concepts coalesce and come into a beauty. It's called Tiferet. Now, we have below them Al-Ha-Nizak. Nizak. Nizak means, I say victory. Nizak means victory. And this is the term that George Bush defeated Iraq with. You remember? We will accept nothing short of victory. If anybody's ever seen one of my books, I can't even find it now. I wrote a book on the war in Iraq. The Kabbalistic and metaphysic interpretation of the war in Iraq. And I demonstrated in that book how he used the word victory to win the war and supplanting it into people's minds. And I also demonstrated in that book that victory is in your pocket. If you have $1 right now, the talons that are holding the arrows is the victory hand. And the word e pluribus is where the channels of war come down. So there is a cross-lateralism where the powers of war go through the consciousness of the eagle, which represents the collective consciousness of people, and ends up in the hands of the talent of war. You see, they use sorcery to beat those people. You heard? How can the world's minority win every fight? They ain't lose since you was born. They not finna show you no of them losing. They'll tell you the casualties, but they always gonna tell you a number. Yeah, we killed 1 million of them, and they only killed about 5,000 of us. You heard? That's what they're gonna do, because they're using sorcery. So now, on the other, and this is the emotion of victory, is the feeling that you feel when you are. You ever felt fearless but intelligent at the same time? Not fearless and foolish, but fearless and intelligent. The only time people really feel like that is if you go hiking and you're in nature. The color of that would be green. You see? You feel comfortable in nature's abundance, don't you? Right? Across from that is hard. Hard is cutting all your losses. Hard is clipping everybody that you don't need. You ever had those periods in your life, the periods where you had so many hangers on, you feeding so many people that you had to get to a point where, yo, if I don't clip homie, I'm going to jail, or I'm just ain't gonna have nothing, or my lady gonna leave me. You heard? Everybody is, nah, I can't do it no more. It's the guy in the barbershop that says, yo, y'all can't smoke no reefer in the barbershop because the police gonna lock us up. Can you, right? Matter of fact, you can't come in here no more. You heard? That's reason. That's what people call reason. You heard? When somebody says, let's be reasonable, that's what they're saying. You heard? That's not reasonable what you're saying. So what I'm giving you is your ancient cosmology for thinking. We never were equipped with this in the English language. Your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth, ninth, whatever high school, college teacher ain't never teach you how to think. They never taught you nothing about moral dilemmas. The only thing they do is create prisons. And I heard Michael Jordan sideswipe. Listen, on the side tip, I heard Michael Jordan own stock in prisons. Ain't that something? And the kids is killing each other over them sneakers. I don't think that's fair. That's sick.
Does he know that?
And I don't.
Is he aware of that?
He gotta be aware of that. I'm not wearing no Jordans.
Michael Jordan is doing.
I ain't banging on Michael Jordan, but I'm like, I was in the penitentiary. I didn't have fun in the penitentiary. And I don't like that you were so nice that you took the money and got into the penitentiary thing. That's crazy.
Free labor.
That ain't fair. That's not reasonable.
They use penitentiary as free labor.
Now, the final frontier on the tree is called Malkuth. Now, we've heard this term before. Malkuth is where you're at now. Malkuth is where you feel everything, your experiences. This is where you bring the what you want into the physical world. The root of the word is Maliku, which means the worker, and Malik, which means the king. The kind of psychologically is, which they don't teach you, is that you can't be a king unless you are in the business of working. If you put the street people know that, whoever put the most work in is the boss, right? So there's something synonymous with being a king and work. Whoever does the work is the king. And then when they call on angels, when you hear the term malikis, they call those, they're like intercessors that do the work of God or do your work for you, in a sense. Now, many of us have heard of the 72 conspirators of Asar, and that's a wonderful story. You hear that Asar is with his brother Set, and Set has his 72 buddies there, and they're all saying, hey, I have this real nice casket. Let's see whose body it fits. So 72 people get in it, 72 people get in, and then they all figure out that it's not our fit. And then Asar gets in it, and they seal him up in it, and that's his demise. One of his demises, right? Now, what are they trying to tell us? when they're saying that 72, it requires 72 things to encapsulate something. They're speaking about the degrees on a 5-pointed star, 3-2 ratio again, from the inside of it to the outside, and each of the degrees, 72 times 5 is what? 360. So it's the circle of cosmic truth is divided in 72 degrees. Now, in the book of Exodus 14, 19 to 21, this is where Moses split the Red Sea. Now, how did he split the Red Sea? I'm going to ask y'all that. How did he do it? Huh?
According to the book.
You said what? Okay, what else? Okay, what else? How did he split it? Why did you say a staff? You said he had a staff. You said according to the story? Okay. All of y'all seen the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston.
Yep.
Because he don't have a staff in this story. He split it with his hand. And it's funny because there's 27 bones in your hand. Your ancients know everything. The ancients knew everything.
72 and 27.
It's 27 bones in your hand. That's a constant that runs through this whole story called humanity. We all got 5 limbs. We all got the same amount of ribs and all that. That's a constant.
That number definitely is like significant because there's another story in the Bible about Noah. Now everyone knows the story where when he took the animals, it said it takes 2 unclean and 2 clean. But further down in the text, he says it takes 7 clean and 2 unclean. So it corresponds with what you say. I mean, I don't know the deep difference, but when I read across it, it always was something that stuck in my mind.
Right.
And it puzzles me still. It stumps me because I still don't understand why did they switch it up like that.
Right. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna show you.
The Septuagint too. They wrote supposedly
72.
Yeah,
of
the
them.
Septuagint.
See? So now, in the verse, when they speak about that, they also speak about these pillars that nobody ever explains. The pillar of smoke and another pillar that guided them in the daytime and all of that in the night, like pillars, like they was walking around chilling with some pillars. A pillar of fire that was illuminating them in the nighttime when they was chilling. You heard? Nobody explains it though. So now, I'm not finna explain that part either right now, right? But I'm gonna show you something. In these 3 verses, and this is something that is not prevalent within the biblical construct. In the Hebrew, each verse is composed of 72 letters. You see? Now, what's 72 times 3? 216. 216 is a very significant number because 6 times 6 times 6, or 6 to the 3rd power, equals 216. 216 also equals the word yara. Yara means fear, but it's a fear that comes from it also has resonates with Leo, or the lion, or the sun. The other night we were doing a radio show on New Covenant Radio with myself, with Brother Polite and Brother Inky. And Inky said something very significant about serotonin. That serotonin is produced in the daytime. And serotonin, in my opinion, from what he shared, is more so of a fear suppressor. Because serotonin makes you feel good. It makes you feel good, and it will make you oblivious to your surroundings. So people who are from warm climates, so the reason why we always like this, we be keeping it real in these cities. When we experience 4 seasons, people be walking around with their face screwed up, angry in the winter time. They're not getting certain serotonin levels. Or you know that if you get on a plane, and go someplace where it's sunny, your emotional field and everything changes. You be like, ooh, it's hot, but I feel good, right? So now, there is a direct correlation between stellar light and your emotional field. Correct?
Yes.
So now the ancestors know that, and they know that they know that light is what geometrically creates the body that you and I have. What the body and what we experience here is an agreement between magnetic fields, visual fields. What you are is what you perceive yourself to be. Visual fields, magnetic fields, and the foods you eat, and all of that. All of those combined. So each of these 72, they put them in this manner, and what they did was they created what's called the 72 names of God, who are synonymous with the 72 conspirators. So now what they do is they read them in this fashion, this way, and they create 72 angels, or these 72 names of God are composed of 3 letters apiece, and you can put El or Yah at the end of each to create either a female or a male force. Now, what does this have to do with light? Have you ever heard of the 72 deacons, the deaconates? Do you know that planets, as we experience planetary forces, they all go at the moon and everything, they go through 72 degrees? They go through a series of a number of 72. So our ancients had a name or a term for each of the forces at particular junctures of the day. Why is it that the Muslim prays 5 times a day? Why is it that the Muslim prays at 5 times out of the day? Now, what tells him when to pray? What instructs him when to pray? What is it? What is it? A light, a source of light, the sun. The sun tells him when to pray. Can a Muslim pray when the sun is rising? Absolutely not. Because the tradition is that that's when Shaitan is praying, when the sun is rising. He has to wait till it rises to make the obligatory prayer. Okay, now what is this telling you intuitively is that whenever the sun rises, the magnetic field on the planet is changing. You see, that's when things are coming out of, that's when somebody else is praying. That's when the flowers are praying. You ever seen that? You ever seen bugs come alive? You hear the crickets and the sounds and everything, and that's all. If you live in the country, that's when the rooster crows in that period. You see that? So now, the 72 conspirators of God are encloaked inside the biblical construct. The phonetic fingerprints of the gods are still there, intact. Everything that you imagined yourself to be is still there. Here we go again. Now, very interesting. They taught you in school A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but never taught you what each letter meant. The 22 sounds of, and they call your alphabet an alphabet, but didn't tell you what an alphabet means. It's an alphabet. It's the first 2 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph Bet is what you got your word alphabet from. So now, here you have 22 sounds that emanate from 5 regions in your mouth. Now, when you make the ah sound, say ah. Say he. Say kef. And ayin. This all emanates from your throat. There's only 5 spaces in your mouth that you can create sound. And then when you split open an apple, it's 5 points on the apple. Then, hopefully, if you got all your teeth in your mouth, you got how many teeth you got in your mouth? You got a 3-2 again. So all your ancestors did, they didn't make. There's a number of 32. It could be separated in 32 as well. So all the ancients did was they did the knowledge. They said they didn't have to make nothing up. All they had to do was observe and look at nature, and nature gives you all of its secrets. This is why they always say in these deep spiritual books that man cannot make another one like this. Especially that's what the Quran boasts. That have you ever seen a book like this before? Why in the Quran do they speak about the sun star Sirius in Surah 49? And it takes 49 years for them to switch places. You heard? So what is it that the people knew about? They knew about it because they had an ancient tradition. Now, when you make sounds like from your lips, peh, say peh, peh, meme, vowel, vowel. You have to use your lips. Vowel, bet, bet. You see? Teeth sounds, daleth, tet, lamed, nun, and thou. All of these sounds are separated in 5 ways along in your palate. Right? See? And here they are in your mouth. This is where the teeth sounds emanate. These would be the lip sounds. On the DVD, you'll be able to see this more clearly because we're going to integrate the images within the DVD, and you'll be able to see it for your own edification and to share with other people. Now, another interesting component. Your tongue is separated in 4 ways. Now, you can't really understand the tree of life unless you are a citizen and proponent of the concept that you make a thing manifest. If you speak something into existence, you make a thing manifest in 4 ways. People always asking for something from the universe, but they don't do it right. This is why you don't get it fast enough.
Absolutely.
You only get it when you follow all 4 ways. You think about it, and then you go. You actively go and get the components needed. But the things that you need to make your ideas happen is you need gender to make it happen. You have to go get male and female energies and make them coalesce and create what is creation. Am I correct? Now, if you have an idea, say you say, we're going to cook dinner tonight. What are we having? The idea was for us to cook dinner. What are we having? We're going to go out and we're going to get the things that we need. That's the second process. I've got the idea to cook. Then I made and put the work in, took my 2 feet down, I went and got the stuff, and I got the supplies that I need. Then the third component is the work. I got to go and cook. I'm cooking the food. The 4th component, where I'm rewarded, is the outcome. Anything that you want in this life, I don't care what it is, it has to follow that construct. If it doesn't, it will falter or fail. This is the secret of the Tetragrammaton. This is why Yahweh's name is composed of 4 letters. The Yod, He, and the vowel in the He synchronize those 4. Yod is the idea. If you stand them on top of each other, it looks like a man. Yod, He is his arms. The vowel is his midsection. His feet is the final He. Called in language, they call it this is a term that they've removed from language. It's called the paragogic He. It's called the paragogic He. And paragogic means it's like putting an exclamation mark on something here to give it emphasis. So it's really the term Yahoo. You heard? So now, I'm saying all this to say that your tongue, the tongue in your mouth, the tip of it tastes the sweet things. Above that, salty. You can test this in the house. You can go get the stuff in the house and see what I'm saying. The gods did the knowledge to the human experience. They didn't deviate from that. They went and did the knowledge to the human experience. He said, you know what? Sweet on the tip of the tongue, salty above, sour, but then the part that's the closest to the inside of your essence is the bitter stuff. You remember Grandma said, you sick? Come here. And she give you something foul. You be like, God damn, Grandma, what the hell is that? But it gets it out of you, don't it? She don't give you no ice cream. Do she give you ice cream? You always want to be sick. You would be like, I'm sick. When I was little, I used to like the penicillin. When I was like 2 or 3, you remember the cherry penicillin? But when ain't nobody looking, I go get a swing of penicillin because you think you're doing something slick. because it's sweet. You understand? But if it's whoever tasted Cascara Sagrada, you tasted that? It's like licking a city bus. Yeah, a city, a sector. Yeah, that's how nasty it is. You be like, oh, but it cleans you out. You understand? So now, even your tongue is composed in fours. Now, very interesting. There's a story in the book of Daniel where they say that Nebuchadnezzar had an image in a dream, and he had to go get the Cushdim, the smartest people in the world, to come interpret his dream. And in the dream, the image had a golden head, silver arms, bronze belly, and a feet of what? Of what? Clay and iron. Now, what is clay and iron? Let's start from the bottom. That's the bottom rung of the tree of life. That's where the Malkuth realm would be. It would be here. It's right here. This is the Malkuth realm right here. This is the bottom rung. This is the tree of life. This is where we are at. This is the earth realm. This is where we at. So what are we composed of when they say clay and iron? What's your blood? What is your blood? What is your blood? Okay, and what else is it? Because when it dries, if you ever got a cut, it'll start getting dry. And who's ever used clay? You've ever used clay? Put clay on the wheel and spin the clay. You see, it has the same texture. Blood and clay are similar, and this is why the word for clay is Adamu, and the word for man is Adam, and the word for blood is Duma, right? Or Damu. You ever heard bloods call themselves Damus? Right? So it's the same concept. Blood and clay are the same concept. And all of the cosmologies, they say God made man out of clay, and then he did what? He breathed his ruach, a spirit within him, and it animated the clay. You see? So now, this is speaking about the physical realm. Now the bronze realm. Who wears copper in here? When you wear copper, it makes you more intuitive. It's analgesic. It heals scar tissue as well. It's magnetic. It's the greatest conductor of heat electricity. When somebody come and when they get the scrap metal, what's the most expensive metal? It's the copper. For that distinctive reason. So now, do you know that when your hair turns gray, that's the copper content in your body depreciating? You see? People who don't go gray are people who eat a certain diet that maintains it. You heard? You can change your hair color by your diet. We eat a refined diet. This is why our teeth, we missing teeth. Teeth be falling right out our mouth. You see? There's a way to remineralize your body. You can take various grains and who's ever heard of bamboo shoots? Bamboo shoots. They have a high concentration of minerals that you can actually remineralize your teeth. You cannot make your teeth whiter by brushing them or going to the dentist. That's this vestigial. Tartar and all that stuff that comes from diet and eating refined foods. So the universe is perfect. The universe is saying, okay, I'm going to keep it real with you if you eat real food. If you don't eat real food, I'm not keeping it real with you. How about that? I'm going to keep it so funky with you, it's ridiculous. Right? Go ahead, eat. And this is what is a trip with people. People want you to have a real relationship with them, but they won't even have the audacity to have a real relationship with themselves. I want you to, that ain't fair. Keep it real with me while I eat this fake food. You see? And I don't look like a dietitian, do I? I'm telling you from my personal experience. And people see my journey. I used to be big fella, tubby, when I first came home. You see? And then my cousin, he was eating vegetables and wearing open-toe sandals, and all the wizards and the sisters was like, hey, Brother Will. I was like, what is it? He said, I eat vegetables, so I started eating vegetables. You see? So, you know, we have emotional connections to foods that we eat. And you can tell a lot about a people's personal experience, and the experience that they had based off of how they eat. You understand? And don't wait till it's too late where they be like, yo, you got type 7 diabetes. You eat another, what you call a scoop of ice cream, we cut both your feet off. Don't do that. You can change all of that. Made the water boil faster by putting a drop of salt in it. That's a trick mommy teaches, right? Yeah. Why the water ain't boiling yet? Because you didn't put no salt in it. So what does salt do?
Violent eruptions. Causes violent eruption.
It does the same thing that copper does. It conducts heat energy when liquefied. So in the penitentiary, you never believe this, brothers used to cook full course meals in a plastic bag. With when I tell you this, extension cord, 2 nail clippers, a rubber band, and a bucket, I could cook for everybody in here. But I better have the salt. Because if I don't have no salt, it's going to blow all the lights on the tier, and the dudes going to want to kill me when they come out their cell the next day.
They're going to be salty.
So they don't even know why they're going to be salty. That's right. And if you ain't got salt, you put adobo. It's the same thing. You understand? So salt conducts electricity. This is why salt is in some of your old hoodoo rituals. Who knows what hoodoo is? That is an American form of sorcery. You understand? The great film on it is Skeleton King. Okay, they use salt, sulfur, and all that, and they was able to go in and out of bodies with Papa Justified, Mama Cecile. And then sour. Who remembers the sour powers when you was little? Them things was addictive, right? There's something about the taste of sourness. They can enhance any flavor by adding sour to it. If you eat food from other people's culture, you notice that they'll have a palate. If you eat Indian food, they'll have something sweet on there, something bitter, something sour, like that, to enhance the culinary experience.
It's like balancing it.
Bro,
Absolutely, they touching every part of your palate.
If I eat a lemon sometime, I put salt on.
You see?
I put salt on a lemon.
See, that's how I get rid of headaches. Because sometimes a lot of your headaches come from a magnetic field. You ever had one of them headaches that be on the surface? Like, you be like, damn. Or when you was little, you smoked some reefer, you be like, hell no, I'm not smoking that no more. Because it made a surge in your head or something like that. That's the fact that your brain sits in a concoction of sodium and potassium. This is why if you ever drinking alcohol and you get so drunk where people's like, yo, you should get him. You heard? All you gotta do is eat bananas. Potassium make you sober right there. Because it realigns your potassium content. When people want to get off, let me just say this, when people want to get off of drugs, the most addictive drug of all drugs is got to be heroin.
Sugar.
Right?
Sugar.
Sugar, you right, but that's, you know, the Willy Wonka, you know what I'm saying? But the heroin ain't no joke. Heroin make you don't care about nothing. You are oblivious to everything. In the penitentiary, that's where everybody is getting high off to get off of the, so what, I got 75 years. I'm high as the hell. You heard? Now, how do they get people off of heroin?
Methadone.
By getting them, methadone gonna do nothing but rot your bones. You heard? And then people get addicted, and the Nazis made it up anyway. And you can get addicted to methadone. But the way to get off of heroin or any drug or any addiction is to get high again off of ayahuasca and have someone walk you through the experience, because the ayahuasca high is on a whole nother level. Now, what is ayahuasca? It is a vine that grows in the Andes in South America, and they mix it with another root. If you just took the ayahuasca by itself, it wouldn't get you high because you have an enzyme in your stomach that suppresses it. You have to take an herb that suppresses the enzyme in order for it to work. The other thing that they include into it is a ritual where they take a crystal, they take a crystal and they put tobacco oil on the crystal and they blow the tobacco over your head. People who I've known that have had the ayahuasca experience feel like their skull, it doesn't hurt, but it feels like their skull is being opened. And they experience visions where they see, if somebody lied to them, they can see the truth. Like you can see the spirit world. Like you're there on the spirit plane. But how do they prepare you for that trip? It's so civilized. They call it defocalizing. That's a good way to say I got high, super high. You heard? But they feed the people a diet before you go into it, of fish and bananas. Omega-3. See, we be getting high and tampering with this temple, but you don't have all of the other stuff to give back everything that you lost. Impotence come from long years of cocaine use. You done burnt out all of the dopamine receptors for you to get horny. Now you don't even get horny no more, unless you high for cocaine. You see? You see? So everything that you experience electromagnetically starts with something that grew on a plant, and you have a receptor for it. You see? So let me this now. The ancients, they have placed in our lap a means and method by which to denote a place in the sky, in a stellar imperative where every letter in the alphabet, in the palette of your mouth, you can find 12 constellations, 7 planets, and 3 elemental forces to describe the direction of where your language is going and what your language entails. You speak in the language of the stars. See? When you speak certain languages, you are bringing, when people asking for certain stuff and certain energies to descend and come, what are they doing? They're pulling it from here. You hear it? Now, very interesting. I told you before that the forces of E pluribus were becoming the forces of war. Because on the Tree of Life, a lot of people, I've never seen any of the occult writers, the David Ikes, and all of them, I've never seen them show you this. That the eagle comes from the Tree of Life. The very thing they want you to fear, they use this as a means to put everybody in game. You heard? You understand where I'm going with this? All of you are under mind control, or I'm not going to say mind control, you under sorcery for your love and lust for things. Desires create fears. And they've got us desiring so much money and living in fear of not receiving it. You see? It would be, it's so crazy that you can't do nothing for free. If you got children, I would love to do what I do for free. But I do it exclusively. I don't have no side hustle. This is what I do. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead, my brother.
I know you talked before about the arrows and the arrows being victory, and I noticed on the other side is the grapes. Have you heard of the expression, we will squash no grape before it's time?
Yeah, that sounds biblical.
Yeah, but that's the other, hand of the evil.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you the dynamics of it. I'm gonna show you this.
Now, you was touching on salt, so I was going to ask you, what was the science behind the doctors saying that African American males should stay away from salt? Is that related to? Because
what salt would do is it will harden your heart.
Why do we like salt?
And you see, we already knew that. We already knew that. That's why they said. They said that homie's wife would turn into a pillar of salt if she turned back. Lie.
Yeah.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
So it deals with the heart. It deals with the heart. And a lot of people don't know that gum disease is related to heart disease. Why? It's the same tissue that your heart is made of. It's the same tissue that your gums is made of. If you ever been to the dentist early in the day, your mouth is totally healed the next day. Why is that? There's so much blood vessels there. So they heal themselves. They coagulate, they heal, bam. Get cut in the hand, it heals. All that stuff heals. You feel me?
Okay.
So now, do y'all want to take a break? Y'all want to take a break?
No.
Let's take a quick break, and let's make sure everybody paid the love offering. So we all be square, we all be abundant, you know. So we're gonna go back in, and before I go back in, how you like the first part? Good. Good. It's I'm really honored by your presence, and I appreciate the love. Any questions about what we discussed? Anybody want? I know some people have some questions. Anybody want some more clarity on anything that we discussed? Yes.
Okay. When you get into why they come out the mother's breast milk, you have to give the reason why.
Okay.
Just describe what your breast look like and everything.
Okay.
That's the first thing that they want.
The Queen Mother asked, why do children have an instinct for the breast when they first come out? And in other lectures, I have shown that a great large majority of the emotional unbalances in society emanate from non-breastfed people. And nurturing is a very significant import to the human experience. If you look and you see in Kim, you see Isis or Aset with what's equivalent to about a 6 or 7 year old baby boy on her lap, and she's breastfeeding him. And this is a symbol of God. And you don't see the man there, but by inference, you know that his role is a prevalent role in the motif, because there's no other way the baby could have got there. You see? So your mother gives you your father's plan via the breast. Very interesting term in Hebrew is Shaddai. People have ever heard that term? Shaddai. Shaddai means almighty, and it equals the number 314. Now what is 314?
That's
Pi. And if we were to draw a shape of 314, what would it be? How can I draw 314? Nope. 2. You're measuring from the center,
The radius.
to the outskirts, the radius. And it equals 3.14. Shaddai is written like this. And the root of the word Shaddai is shad, and shad means breast. So when we're speaking about phonetic fingerprinting, we're talking about there's so much there. Now, let's go biologically. There are 5 locations that are stimulated in the brain when the child is breastfeeding. 5 areas in the brain are stimulated from breastfeeding. And those 5 areas all are on or around and about the pineal. Pineal function and your ability to have optic perception is all from breastfeeding. I did a lecture, and the first lecture I did in California was called because I thought, because I was going to California, I received my culture shock. I thought when I was going to California that, oh, they're cutting edge. They're, you know, they on the next level. So I said, let me put alien in the title. So I'm gonna get everybody to come out, because you know. And then when I got there, and I got with the consciousness people, they was like, yo, bro, is the brother all right? He talking about aliens, right? So I had to qualify what I was talking about to the community, because they wasn't like, you bugging, what you talking about aliens? It's a living African tradition. You know what I'm saying? So what you finna tell us, we reptilians, brother? You know what I'm saying? Like that, so I had to go clarify that for them. I wish I never would have did that. But I'm glad that I did, because I was able to speak to why is it that we use the term Nephilim. See, when we read Zechariah Sitchin's books, he was talking about the Nephilim. And the Nephilim, and we was like, oh God, the Nephilim is the one taught everybody how to do everything. They the aliens, that's the reptilians. Then we got the David Icke book, mixed it up. Then they was like, oh man, white folks is reptilians. And then we was like, you know, they the aliens. And then you just took yourself out of the whole movie. You ain't in Star Wars no more. You think everybody but you is the alien, but you don't understand what alien is or what an alien could be. You get your stellar connection via mommy, the Milky Way. You see? Your gateway to the cosmos is your pineal gland. Breastfed children receive instruction from on high. Now, in Kim, we used to, who's ever heard of the pole star? What did we call the pole star? We had a goddess who was in charge of the pole star. And she was in the animal kingdom, we made her synonymous with the hippopotamus. Now, why would the hippopotamus be the symbol for the pole star? And have you ever seen a hippopotamus in water? They love water. They love water. And they're very calm and kind. But the female will turn it up if you go at the children. I'm talking about get aggressive and turn it up if you go at the children. And this is why she became the symbol for midwives. See? And the symbol for what we classically, in classical literature, call Draco. The Draco star system. It used to be top Earth. You heard? Now, I might have the slide in there and I'll explain it to you, that the R and the L sound are synonymous in language. So when they say tar, when you say R, what are you using? R, the tongue. Say L too. L. In language, they were similar. When I say a phonetic fingerprint of the gods, you can't hide the God because the phonetics are the same. If your name is Michael, in one world, in this world, and your name was Michael 6,000 years ago, it's the same valence. It's the same, it resonates with the same equivalency. If somebody called, my name is Ahmed. If I'm someplace and somebody says Ahmed, I'm gonna think they're talking to me, right? I'm gonna turn around and be like, what's up? And they be like, not you. Oh, your name Ahmed too? I was calling him. Oh, all right, both our names is Ahmed. You heard? Phonetically, there's a fingerprint, so we have a similarity. So, if you commit a crime and you touch something and they get a good print, they're going to say you was there, right? So now when I go in language and I go in the book, they can find me there. So now, one of the symbols of Ta'ert is that you would see her with her breast out, and she would have a alligator on her back. Now, what's the alligator? What alligators got to do with it? That's how Draco, the dragon, that's why they call Draco the dragon. Because people who didn't have the phonetic fingerprint, but they had the common sense to look and say, okay, that's a reptilian on her back. And now you talking about reptilians coming from the star system Draco. By the time David Icke get the story, George Bush is a reptilian from the star system Draco. And now we sitting up like this. Oh, they deep. They deep. We powerless though. We can't get on spaceships. We can't do nothing. All we can do is slam dunk. You heard? That's it. While everybody else is having fun. You feel me? There's something missing. So now, why was the alligator so significant and of import in the construct? Alligators are known for their behavior in the waters, coming in and out of waters based off of the lunar light and the amount of teeth in their mouth, which is 60. And 60 is the sexagesimal number used for delineation of time. You see? So we would create elaborate systems based off of simple observations. You see? So now, the Nephilim. The term Nephilim is where you get, who's ever heard of the tribe of Naphtali? Let me see if I got the slide. Here's the E pluribus unum on the thing. Let me see. Now, in Freemasonry, you've all heard of Hiram Abiff, right? Everybody gets deep when you start saying Hiram Abiff, right? But that's a character from the Bible. Everybody who speaks about that but doesn't go to the biblical reference for it will miss the point of what it really means. Hiram is mentioned in the book of Kings as being filled with something that Nebuchadnezzar said that he wanted the Cushite children for. They're filled with this thing called Dav. I said I want to name this long for death if ye are true. Because the way you got the word death from is from the word Dav, which means to know or knowledge. And there's nothing more, that's the most certain thing in your existence is that you're going to kick the proverbial bucket. You're going to die. You heard? You're going to die. You're going to know what it looks like to see God face to face. You're going to see that. If you would only live your life knowing that you'd have a far greater life, you would appreciate far more if you embrace the fact that you are going up. They're going to send you up. You heard? Somehow, who knows? But you out of here. Show enough as you can. Death actually began when you were born. You see? Now, Eurocentric consciousness, they didn't understand until later the import of women. So a woman's belly became hell from the goddess, the European goddess Hel. Because if we're in an aberrant environment that doesn't cater to life, but we keep having sex and having kids that we can't feed, that's something that will become maligned and something that they will denigrate inside of culture. You heard? The process of bringing children into existence, absent of culture and abundance, is something that is maligned in culture. You heard? And this is why so many negative connotations have been given to women. Satan is the horns on Satan. That's Hathor's horns. You heard? They done turned women into Satan. Right before your eyes. You heard? You see? So, when we go to the book of Kings and we go say who is Hiram? It says clearly, he is a son from a mother who is a widow, and she is from the tribe of Naphtali. You see? Now, when they're telling you Naphtali, that is a secret encoded thing that no Mason even talks about. Masons don't know nothing. Let me tell you something. The last Masonic event I went to, I wanted to throw up. It was disgusting. I'm talking about, I had a Yoda in my lodge. This dude was a Mason for 50 years. An old Negro Mason. That ain't know nothing about metaphysics or nothing. I was like, yo, hey, I'm thinking, hey, brother, you know, he's sharp. He finna tell me something. He was like, all that stuff is lies that they make up about this stuff. This stuff is about justice and loving, and pulled out a poem, and he hit me with a piece of paper with the thing on there, with the Masonic thing. He said, this is what it's about. Are you coming to the football, to the tailgate party? It's a $150 tailgate party. Everybody got to bring $150 so we can eat chicken and drink beer at Shea Stadium. Don't even go in. We sitting there, bus drivers. I'm telling you, right? So we went to a grand session. We in grand session. Here comes Yoda and all of the old Negro Masons. They pulls out, I swear, this is when I was like, no, I didn't get into this for this. They had Jesus on a pole, brother, and was singing. It sounded like an old Negro spiritual. I thought I was in Roots. I was like, yo, I went and told my worshipful, who was a young brother. I told worshipful, I said, listen, I'm sick, I gotta go. I live right down the street, I had to go. I said, yo, I gotta go. They ain't never seen me again. Because they had offended my psychology. And some people will say, hey, because I had teachers that say, listen, you bugging. That's masonry, and they're building a house in secret. You heard? And everybody ain't supposed to know. Everything ain't for everybody. Like, really? Some of my other teachers would have told me I'm bugging. Like, my elder teachers, like, I got a teacher named Everlast. He got the whole thing in jail, right? He's in prison forever. But it's because he didn't receive no Masonic protection. That's old. You can't go on the courts and play and be like this and play all that. Yeah. They're gonna be like, get the 730 people. He needs a psychological. You know? That's what they're gonna do. Okay? You can miss me with that. The Masonic favors start from the time the cots interact with you. Once you start getting through systems and going in cells and what do you plea and all that, all your Masonic favors is over. You heard? That's gone. And I'm saying all this to say that 1,000 out of 1,000 Masons, half of a Mason know the truth. It's because they're not Kabbalists. Kabbalah means to receive, but it also means to learn. Because you can't learn unless you're able to receive something. You understand? So, Naphtali. Now, they said that he was an exceptional young man because he was versed in the artifice. He was an artificer of bronze and created the pillars of bronze and whatnot. But what was the qualifying factor was that he was full of Dav. Knowledge, they said knowledge, understanding, and Dav. That's the symbol. They keep showing you in the Bible a breast. And this is it. I'm going to show it to you right now. It's right here. It's right here. this would be proverbially the breast, because this is knowledge. This is the words of knowledge and wisdom, understanding are synonymous. They mix them up in English. But they are localizing your attention to these three Sephiroth right here. This one, and this one. Hiram Abiff is born from or connected directly to this Sephiroth, these three. Now what happens is when you remove these and all of them, this is what you begin to start seeing in the text. You'll see this in the text. Constantly they'll say someone has wisdom, understanding, and Dog. Wisdom, understanding, and Dog. He had great wisdom, understanding, and Dog. Constantly, they keep going. He had wisdom, understanding, and Dog. All of these different prophets. In particular, they say he was from the tribe of Naphtali. Now look at this. The word Naphtali is spelled like this. Nun, Pe, right? Naphtali. Now, Naphtali is Naph, and this is where you get your word for nipple. The word P, the sound P, is synonymous with F's. You heard? Now, when you go to a mechanic and you got to get your oil changed, what does he do? Does he take a bottle of oil and throw it at your car? He'd be like, let me change your oil. Open up the thing and just throw it in there. What does he use?
Funnel.
Oh, there's another phonetic fingerprint. You're not speaking a new language. You're not speaking a new language. You only got 5 spaces or parts in your mouth to create sounds. They're constants in nature. You ain't finna make up no new words. You're going to take old words and put them together and create what's called neologisms. You heard? You're going to say giant and enormous, ginormous. You're not going to make nothing up new. You're going to use, it's called neologism, a new use of language. So, here goes that funnel. How does a funnel look? Right? Right? The little aperture here. And then when you pour something in it, what happens? It gets localized. It comes out at a specific concentration. A point of concentration. So when they say the pole star, they're talking about the pole star, that the axis of the planet is pointing to a specific star. So when you at the North Pole, this is how they find it. They go to the North Pole, the North Pole of the pole itself, and look at the stars. And the star, when they take the picture, the star that doesn't have that drag, that's just there straight, that's the pole that orients the gravitational pull, and it travels to different areas. You heard? They used to call it Thuban, you know, Draco. We're not under Draco no more. We're in a different one. You heard? But Draco was like 3, 4, 5. I want to say about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. I'm paraphrasing. Excuse me if I'm wrong. Now, Naph. They said that he was from the tribe of Naphtali. Now here goes the word Thali, or Theli, right? Theli. Now, when somebody says Theli in language, they also saying Thari. Takes you back to Earth. You see? What happens is, in language, I'm coming to the story late. And I'm like, wow, look at the living tradition these African people left the world. Let me remix this story. You heard? I'm going to remix the story. I'm not going to make up nothing new. I'm not innovating. I write the new story. By the time you get it, 5,000 years later, they took out the phonetic fingerprint, and now you running with translation, and you don't even, the Bible is... there's nothing syncopation. There's no syncopation in it. It's like you start here, then another story start, then another story start, then another story. Where are all these stories? Where is they all connected at? And you notice when they got to the New Testament, they had the audacity to write the same book 4 times. I'm like, come on, you really playing with me now. They didn't change nothing, man. A few things here, a few things there, that's it. So, he is from the tribe of Naphtali. Naphtali. Now, I did more research. What part of the month is that synonymous with? It's synonymous with, what's the only month that when you say it, you think of a woman? September. What happens in September?
The 9th month.
That's Virgo. It's a virgin. It's the only sign that it's a person. Some people say the Aquarian, but that's a dew pouring water. Virgo is just a woman, straight up. It's a sister. Now the symbol, the Hebrews make a gazelle. Happy birthday.
You good? I'll be back.
All right. Now, they put in it a gazelle. Now, why they put a gazelle? A gazelle is a symbol of abundance, but it's a symbol of abundance for creatures that do what? That hunt. See? For the hunt. That's what you want. You want a gazelle. Like if you was a lion, you know what I'm saying? You want a gazelle, don't you? You don't want no no vegetables. Right? So abundance in some pantheons would be like a bunch of wheat or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that. So back to your point, mother, is the reason why we come out of mommy and into the world, and the first thing that we desire is the sucking reflex in the breast, is that we seek to connect with our celestial Father. And the only way that you can connect with the celestial Father is you need the appendage by way to see him face to face. Now, very interesting, they tell you in the biblical text that a gentleman has a wrestling match with an angel. And they say it was where? Penuel. You see? Here they go with the sounds again. Pin, fin. You see? Funnel, nipple. Nipple. You see? And they say that Naphtali means to wrestle with, or the wrestling. This is what the wrestling is. It's taking the sporadic things and making it focused in concentricity. You see? You see what I'm saying? So a funnel creates you can have a vortex here. You see? So I'm telling you, y'all are very advanced. Y'all are very advanced. If you understand a little bit of what I'm saying, you have jumped beyond the people who are not here. You feel me? It took me like 6 years to get us to the point where we can actually have this conversation and not be like, what are you talking about? Now, let me see something. Now, I'm going to digress and show you something. Now, you've ever heard of the 3 assassins of Freemasonry? You know who killed Hiram? They said it was who? And who? Now, what did I just say? That's what killed Hiram. Sound killed Hiram. The most cosmic sound. You see? And they reduced the 72 conspirators to 3 conspirators in Freemasonry and showed you that it is with sound. Sound slows down Like, I could sit here and I could speak to you with psychoacoustics. I could say something, I could shut my mouth and say something like this, psychically. Some people are receptive to that. They be like, yo, I felt that. You heard? Sisters, you know, when y'all have sensory perception, when you out there in them streets, I don't know how it is for y'all. In New York, the sisters are under the people, everybody, a sister will tell you, people from out of town will tell you, New York is intense. One of my mentors here, he came to see me at my office in where I used to teach on Gates and Nostrand in the hood. That's like the equivalent of whatever is the worst block where it's popping all the time in Philly is Gates and Nostrand. You heard? In Brooklyn. And she's from Philly, and she came back to the office and was like, them Negroes are crazy. Everybody we passed by wanted to talk to us. You heard? So the energy, so sisters know that y'all be on the train and the dude don't even have to say nothing. He just be looking at you and you be like, you looking straight ahead, but you feel it. You like this, you turn around, bloodthirsty Negro looking at you. Yeah, he don't say hi, he done said hi already, psychically, acoustically. He got you on all type of moves and everything in his mind. He's like, what? Like this, psychoacoustics. How do you make it a reality though? You gotta speak it to existence. Because then you cutting down, you slowing down the valence, you're slowing down the energy and making it so it can be seen. When something becomes visible, now we can actually see it, right? The way to make it visible is by speaking it into existence. So ain't nobody killed no Hiram. This is what killed Hiram, the sound, Om. You see? Jubala, jubalo, jubala, right in plain sight. Right in plain sight. Okay. He wants to do it again. Okay, cool. This is what I was telling you about before. Proverbs 1:2. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. When I went word for word in the text, to know is da. Wisdom, hokmah, instruction, and to perceive, and amari, amori, speak, understanding, binah. You see, you will always see this descending triangle where things are funneled into the physical experience. You heard? This is the design for that. They had to put the design in the text. You see? Your text is nothing but designs. What the hell? Here we have, this is a snippet from a book that I'm going to be publishing that's going to be like a paperback, where people always call me and ask me, I get emails all the time, Brother Rashid, take my name and make it so I can make the numbers in it, Brother Rashid, so I can use it Kabbalistically. So I drew a diagram of a phonetic diagram. So you can take your name, whatever your name might be, because a lot of people want to change their name. Your mama and them gave you a name for a reason. There's a bunch of science connected to your name. Before you get into changing your name, you need to find out who you are first. You heard? People be like, well, that's my slave name. Well, you know, I'm not of the mind that Africans didn't have something up their sleeve. You heard? Like, we got a great big experience. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care how far you want to get away from slavery. If I shake your family tree, a white man gonna fall out of it. You heard? Many of you. You heard? So you could miss me with that. You know? Now, your name, if your name is Thomas, if your name is Paul, Michael, if your name is John, there's a link between the Aleph, Bet, and the alphabet that you can find out the actual function of these sounds. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to describe for you the function and the import of each sound. Beginning with Aleph, the ox, it represents the primal will or the spirit to be. Now, if you look at the Aleph, look at the letter Aleph. Where's my eraser? I'll just use my hand. You look at the Aleph. Here is the Aleph. See it? What does it look like it's doing? It looks like it's spinning, don't it? There's some motion involved, right? You see it? It's actually a fly-fot cross, commonly called a swastika. This has no negative connotation if you see it on the chest of a Buddha. You heard? They weren't Nazis, you know? Now, the Aleph is an ox. Now, what is an ox? An ox does what? When an ox comes into existence, what does an ox do? An ox doesn't do nothing but be an ox. It represents the primacy within you, the one thing that you can't change. You have something in you that seeks to survive. You heard? You got something in you. If there's an overwhelming, incessant desire to thrive and live, that is a primal will. You understand? An oxen sits on fours, right? You see the four. You see the motion of four. Here you see 1, 2, 3, 4. You see the ends of it. You heard? The four winds. You've ever heard of that concept? The four winds. Something that it's the first thing to do. When something comes into existence, it spins. When babies are born, they spin. If you ever seen your child come out in the world, the baby spins almost, in a sense. You see? They come out. Now, that's what the sound ah sounds like. That's what it is performing. Psychologically, this is what you are always tapping into every time you use the sound. This is what you're doing. You're dealing with that energy. Now, when you get to the letter Beth, what was first came out in the swirl, now it's here. It needs someplace to be. So the next letter is Beth, which means a house. House represents a vesture in something. It came out to be in something. And then the next letter is a gimel. For like 2 years, I was like, what the hell do a camel got to do with an ox in a house, right? I said, what's that about, you know? Then one of my teachers, Zoriel, he said, go to the word gimel itself, and then you'll find more, and write it out as a word. So in English, we would write gimel like this, but in Hebrew, the letter gimel is written like this. And then he said, now look, what are camels known for? What?
Carry the house.
They can carry what?
The house in the back.
Okay. Carry people, and what else?
Store water.
Store what?
Store water.
Oh, where they store it at though?
In the hump.
In the hump. So the hump is the middle, right? In the middle of the word, then we have the letter meme, which means water. See? See, your ancestors, it's not going to make nothing to confuse you. They deal with a psychology that's rooted in nature. Nature never deviates from her path of simplicity. She tells you the truth in few words. She don't need a bunch of words to explain a simple truth. Now, here you go with a vehicle. Now the thing that primarily spun into the world that needed a vesture now becomes a vehicle in which to move. Now it's a vehicle, but now what does a vehicle do? It goes in and out of things, does it not? What's the next word? Daleth. It means what? Door. So the concept of a door is to enter or depart. So now I got a full cosmology right here, where I'm showing you how something begins and how something ends, because the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet is the Tau. The Tau. Now the T sound. In Kim, when they wanted to write Sirius is Sub Pidet. This is how they wrote it. With a 5-pointed star here. This is the T sound in the language, because T is synonymous with what other letter? D. T and D are the same. Now, when I write uppercase D, all I'm doing is taking the Cometian half disc. Your ancestors is legends.
Yeah.
They still here. And turned it upside up. That's it.
That's good.
And it denotes place or where something is at. You heard? So everything, when I'm trying to describe to you, I need you to meet me at what time? Time. You heard? Be there. Be there. You heard? At. See, nobody never saw. Oh, man. This was mind-blowing to me. That's why I never let nobody, thank you, Mama. I never let nobody discourage me from, they used to try to, when I first started teaching, they said, but black people want to hear that, Brother Rashid. We black, we want to hear about Africa. We're Africa. You know, that's what we want to talk about. You talking about this Kabbalah, you talking about Jews and white folks and all that. And I'm like, since when is Jews white folks? Somebody ain't reading the right books. I know everybody be talking about Dr. Ben, but then nobody talk about this book he wrote. I read it. Where you was at? The black what?
Jews.
Everybody talk about Dr. Ben. When you say Jew, they be like, I don't want to hear nothing about no Jews. Well, what is this? What is it? Let me see now. Oh, this thing like this picture. Making me right there. Okay, now check this out. I'm going to show you. I'm not making up nothing. I'm going to show you in the text. You'll see it clearly in the DVD. But this is the whole 1 Kings 7:14, word for word, right? And I'm going to read it to you. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass, and he came to King Solomon and wrought all of his works. Now, the word Naphtali, I've highlighted it up there. The other highlights too together are of worker. It's the worker, the word worker is Korash. Like Korash. You ever heard of Korash or the Koresh? You heard? The Koresh. They're speaking about, they be telling you that specific functions that people do. Like, for instance, they'll tell you that the word astrologer, the word for magician and astrologer is Khartoum. Now, where is Khartoum? It's in Sudan. this is what happens. They will remove, it's called the gentilic term. If you've heard people say, whenever somebody tells you that the word nigger comes from Niger, they are giving you the gentilic association, where a people have adorned themselves, right, with a place or a location. But if someone says to you that you acting like a nigger, man, that's totally different now, right? They've removed the place and made it a function. You see? Now, based off of your knowledge of whatever that function is, or whatever climate the psychology entails, will determine how the script is understood. You understand? So now it says, wisdom, hokmah, as I told you before, understanding, and cunning. The word for cunning is dav. Dav, when you hear cunning, he was wise. Dav, he was a baby with pineal function. You see? The Naphtali, the children of Naphtali. Here is the, I believe I showed you, no, I showed you another part of the Proverbs. Here is the symbol again. Here it is again. First, wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. That is so poetic. That sounds so good, doesn't it? In the original language, it is first wisdom, fear Jehovah, and Dav, Kedushin, holy understanding. Meaning the first wisdom, fear Jehovah, and Dav, the holy understanding. How the hell did we get the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding? That took like a room full of people to sit down and be like, say it like this, son. Let me see, let me read it. This is how they did it. Let me read it. Then they, okay, cool. We like this version. Let's pass it on to another person. Let them read it. Let them go over it. Boom, boom. And then a series of redactors, that's what they call them, have cut down the Bible into how we have it now. You've heard in my part 1 of this, because I want to release this whole 3-part thing in a series, because I'm not saying the same thing I said in part 1 in this part. You heard? Part 1, I only have 45 minutes to say what I'm saying. Now I've been able to explain it. But in the first part, I show people the role of the Yahwists, the role of the Elohists, and the role of the redactors and the priests. You see? They all had their own separate agenda. Now, very interesting. The word for Keter equals 620. Hokmah equals 73 prime. Binah 67. And Dath equals 474. We have 4 Sephiroth, and when we add them all up, we have a sequential order of the numbers what? 1, 2, 3, and 4. You see? We had a numeric and a mathematic undertaking involved. Now, here we go. Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. So when they went to go see King Nebuchadnezzar in their city, not only did their names change, when your name changes, this is the point I wanted to make behind that. When your name changes, your resonance changes. Your equivalency changes. Why do you think people want to change their name? I feel more empowered with this Kemetic name. I want to, they want to change themselves. You heard? So in order to change yourself, you have to change your numbers. You see? Boom. Now, of course, I showed you that. How 632 plus 34 equals 666. And that represents messianic stellar prophecy. Because Sheba comes and gives Solomon 666 talents of gold annually. It says that in the text. Now, 6 is a number that deals with the delineation of time. 3 6s means that it's existing in 3 different planes of existence. On 3 levels of existence is it all occurring at one time. You see? So the only thing that does that very intelligently is the carbon atom. They say that 666 has a deep connection with carbon or with blackness. Its ability to transform light into intelligence is what carbon does. You see? It is very electrical in its construct. It's suited specifically for that. Cartoon, here we go in the text, and it says, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers. The magicians are the cartoon. Here is cartoon. You heard? They're telling us that the magicians, the gentilic term, comes from this area of the continent. You see? Their phonetic fingerprints are there. You are still there. And here is a very interesting article that was in the New York Times several years ago. It says, the genetic signatures of people in Spain and Portugal provide new explicit evidence of the mass conversion of Sephardic Jews and Muslims to Catholicism. Now, I put this up here because I want to show you something. You don't lose your traditions. You hide your traditions in other forms. You take on religions and hide. You ever heard of a crypto Jew? It's Christians that were forced to be, it was Christians that were once Jews that were forced to be Christians. So they would have to hide their Judaism from being in plain sight just in order for them to survive. You heard? We in them type of times too. You ever had them type of times where they be like, no, don't wear that. You going down there with them people, put something else on because the people gonna think that you so-and-so. You heard? And then they gonna say no when they see you coming in. You heard? Sisters have to go through that all the time. If they Islamic, they Muslim, and they gotta work in the out there, they'll be like, yo, you coming in with a kimal, they're gonna be like, I don't think you're great for us, you know, and pull that kind of stuff. You understand? Where sisters will have to take it off to work in the corporate field, and then, you know, go to work with the kimal, take the kimal. You got to do all this bending and changing your stance just to accommodate having to eat. You understand? So they had several instances in history where we would have to hide our religious practices. Then after a while, people forgot that they was Jewish. You heard? People forgot it. So this is what happened to us. And when you ever hear the term Sephardic Jew, they're speaking about Africans. New York Times article, Muslims, the mass conversion of Sephardic Jews and Muslims to Catholicism in the 15th and 16th century. When I say 15th century, that means I'm speaking about 1492. 15th century is 14s, you heard, all the way up. That's when you got kicked out of Spain. They was like, y'all can't be here no more. You understand? Leave. Where did they go? They went back home. Millions of Jewish Africans went back home. You know what home was? Tripoli, Algeria, Egypt. You heard? Muslims, okay, Jews and Muslims to Catholicism in the 15th and 16th centuries after Christian armies wrested Spain back from Muslim control. A team of geneticists report 20% of the population of the Iberian Peninsula has Sephardic Jewish ancestry, and 11% have DNA reflecting Moorish ancestors. You see? So, you know, shout out to anybody that speaks about the Moors, because this is the only country in the world that teaches social studies. Every place else teaches history and geography. We are the only ones that teach the babies social studies. Can you imagine? Do you know what social studies is? It's a trip. Now, Asar's throne is created with 5, but 5 based off of the onus of 4. This is based off of divine proportion. Asar's throne transforms into the square of 5 through the principle of, what the hell is that thing here? Come on,
Square
now.
root.
Who went to school? Square root of 5. Or the golden, when you see this, that means the golden proportion. You heard? Where it rests at. So now, when they, you know, they got all this, they got 2 men on the throne. They're telling you, watch the throne. I would have respected that if it was a lady and a man. You heard? So psychologically, that's crazy. You heard? Because when you hear throne, you're hearing male, female. Because in our psychology, it says that the throne of Asar is upon the crown of what? Aset. You see? So, ain't that deep? Your ancestors said that your throne, men, your throne that you sit on, you kings, you sit on a throne to rule the world, but your throne is on the crown of your woman? So she walking around with you on her head, on her mind. If you are in her mind, in good graces, then you're a king? Huh? Don't that sound like, man, you ain't gonna have nothing but bad luck with all the women hating on you? Huh? Huh? Don't nobody want no friends that the women hate them. You heard? Right? I don't care what no nigga think about me, as long as the sisters want to hear what I gotta say. You heard? I don't care what the dudes think. They gonna hate anyway. You understand? If you have your mother contemplating on you and making sure you all right, that's the biggest gun in the universe. You understand? And they would tell us, look at the Big Dipper. Ooh, look at the Little Dipper, right? And that's it. They don't explain nothing past that. But what does a dipper do? And then what? Pours. You see? Same principle as Ta'ar's breast. It feeds the physical world its inhabitants. Stellar light. Have you ever seen the movie The Golden Compass? They said at the North Pole that there was a man, they were seeing, we're at the North Pole, and there's a man here with a dog. You heard? I was like, oh, that's Orion. The dog is the dog star. You heard? They were saying whatever planet or whatever period they were in, they were channeling, they said the dust. The dust. What is the dust? The dust is what you're composed of. You are from Sirius. You know that, right? You know we're all from the Sun Star Sirius. Everybody concentrated on 2012. I'm doing a lecture in Maryland on the 29th, myself with the red and the blue pill from KTL from No Ledge Radio. And they got everybody on this 2012 mission, but the Siggy with the Dogon, they're not thinking about no 2012. They got a 60-year ritual. Every 60 years, they reformat the universe. They pick a new Hogan that cleanses the world based off of the sighting of Jupiter and Saturn. When that aligns, they're not talking about that other thing, that everything line up. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. That's going to happen every 25,000 years. That's going to happen. It ain't going to stop happening either. You heard? So, you know, you can miss me with that. Like, oh, this is the end of the world. The end of the world. You heard? And in closing, I want to show you this final slide. And I'm going to pick up on this content on part 3. But this final slide, I'm going to show you something very important. This is what you do. You all live in the tree of life. And this is the path. Each path or Sephiroth represents a journey. Your journey as a hero in your own adventure. All of you are heroes in your own adventure. Everything that you've ever gone through, every enemy that you have surmounted and destroyed is all predicated on God's desire to experience physicality via your experience. God, quote unquote, experiences reality via your perception and experience in the physical world. So now, Keter represents the call, Hokmah, to act. And then once you receive the call to act in anything, in whatever capacity, you must be nurtured. And in the story, if you look at films very astutely in the manner in which I would hope you do, and I do, I don't just look to get entertained. I look at the spiritual dynamics in the unfolding story at hand, because it's a mythology. When you get the call to act, the thing that you must do is go to the nurturer. The nurturer is the female in the story. She then sends you on your journey. And the journey takes you to a teacher, and the teacher prepares you for your enemy, who you have a battle with, you are victorious with, you have the glory, and then upon receiving glory, you now interact with your mate, and the desire for sex and to recapitulate yourself in the physical world arises, and then the wedding. You heard? And it works the other way around. After the wedding, the copulation, you receive the glory. Am I right? You'd be like, woo, Lord. And then it's a victory after that. You're like, I won, right? Then after that, you got to defend what you won now. You heard? Or somebody else going to take it. You heard? If you don't want it, right? And then there's a battle. And the battle, every battle has an enemy, and then you learn from it. You heard? It becomes a teacher. And then after that, you go back on your journey and you return to the nurturer and back to the call of action and back to your origin. It goes both, you know, up and down synonymously. You heard? So now, a sister asked me a question, and she asked me, she said, what if what you're asking for or you want to call down is something like money? You heard? And we were talking about the four worlds. And I'm going to say this. You have to be very descriptive, Queen, when you're asking for anything from the universe. Because if you just simply say, and the reason why we have 4 levels is because there's a way to ask for things on each level. There are, in the lowest rung, what is synonymous with asking is you ask the planetary bodies. You see? Where you're conscious of alignment in the stellar world. Above that, you must know the different name. You got to know what the name of what you want is on a higher density. You got to find out its name in a higher density. You got to find out what money is on a higher density. And then you got to find out what governs that density. And then you got to find out the highest level of how to call it above that. But the first place from the physical world, the first thing you look to is the stars. So now, you got to be very careful, and I'll end with this. If you ever ask for some money, and you're not extremely descriptive of what you're asking for, something like this could occur. You're going to say, yeah, I need to, let's do a high number. I need 3 million. I need 3 million yesterday, like yesterday. You heard? Next thing you know, without being descriptive, somebody close to you and your family dies based off of negligence in the hospital, and you get a $3 million, what you call it, lawsuit settlement. You done lost a loved one. You got your money though, but you done lost a loved one from not being descriptive. So it's always, I think our psychology today has been massaged in such a way that we now see the import of every sound that we make. And I want you to study the sounds that come out your mouth, and the way to do it is to get to the bridge between when your greatness was at. There's a bridge between the Medu and all the ancient languages, and it's called Hebrew, and it's available. It's in your face. It's only 22 sounds. You should memorize the alphabet. You heard? You should. Because it gives you direction, functionality, and it gives you a source of strength from which to draw the meanings of sounds. It gives you something to do, contemplate the nature of words. That's what makes you stronger, and that's what stimulates your pineal gland that mommy was supposed to turn on with the breastfeeding. So there's no other way to work that muscle here but to contemplate symbols. Massage the pineal, symbolisms. And this is why they have to dominate you with symbols. Y'all better be careful. Y'all on serious ley lines here in Philly. Y'all are on this whole city might be on top of a grave. You can feel that type of energy here. You heard? It's different. They got billboards out here with no words on it. I seen 2 retarded white people on the billboard today.
I see them all the time.
And I say, yo, where they going with this, man? Without words, what is it saying to your psychology?
You got one with 2 people kissing with no words. One with a big white man just standing there. You see them all the time.
And these images just sit and they lodge themselves in your psychology. You know, they spend billions of dollars to like Facebook. Facebook is cool, but let's keep it real. Facebook destroys families. Does it not? Because it's really a tool created by social scientists who went to school for behavioral science and computers and knew that people want to connect sexually. Its sexual favors are equated psychologically to the little red box that's likes. You heard? They panoramically are superimposing contrasting colors to keep the vibration in your mind of red and blue, red and blue, red and blue, red and blue, red and blue. You heard? In your mind. So when people say, they turn on their face with that, ooh, I got likes. I got likes. Let's see who liked me. Let's see who liked me. I can't wait. Ooh, I said something slick. They like that. I got 30 likes, right? And the thing that I noticed, right? And this is what I noticed. I said to myself, I'm going to stop playing on Facebook unless I'm getting some money. You heard? And I'm going to tell you, the most traffic that I get more traffic on Facebook when I say something scandalous and crazy. You heard? Like, no, he didn't. He said that? Wow, Brother Rashid. And then people start hitting you up on the inbox. What's up? You got that book? I need that book, man. Right? And that's what the thing is for. You heard? But people be on there trying to be moral and humble, and then you got all these queens that's all beautiful. You go to the photos, they half naked, and then their names, she got 7 names from Kemet. You heard? And then you inbox her and be like, peace queen was good, can we go out? And they're like, no brother, I'm fasting. I've been fasting for 7 years and I'm not doing that. That's nasty. And I'm like, miss me with that. You know?
I'm staying for 2 years.
Yeah, I've been abstaining.
Yeah, hold up. I had one like that upstate New York.
Yeah.
Talking to her on Skype, right?
Yeah.
She was staying for 2 years, right? She said, no, what love. And the next week, I was like, yo, what's up? He's like, oh, yeah, I broke my fast.
Yeah.
African guy I know from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He kept over and broke me up. I was like, 2 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Patience and knowledge.
Yeah.
And he just went like that.
Exactly.
That's how you know it's bullshit.
Right. So it was made by college kids who wanted to go to school, and that's what people like. I'm not in my mother's house no more. It's women running around on the campus. You heard? Let's create something behavioral science. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So if I said anything wrong,
I was going to say that if you just watched the movie Social Network,
yes,
he was angry. He was born out of anger and frustration because of a sexual relationship.
Yes.
So, you know, as you take it on, as you say, the more scandalous it is, feeds the energy that it started with, based on the movie.
That's right.
And he was intoxicated too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I don't trip because they drink beer in Africa. This is the thing that be killing me with people. You know, sometimes when we say stuff, we got to qualify it. You know what I mean? Like there's no such thing as a vegetarian tribe of ancient people that never existed. We ate meat ritualistically. You heard? For ritual purposes. People will say that when you read Zora Neale Hurston's book of Mules and Men, she's giving you clear, distinct formulae for magic and sorcery. She said to achieve invisibility, they would take a cat and boil the cat alive and remove the whitest bone from the cat. I said that to one of my students. They was like, I would never boil anything alive. I said, you're a damn liar, all the crabs and lobsters you eat. You see? It's the convenience. We convenient Africans. You see? When we feel like it. You know what I mean? So, if I said anything to offend anyone, that was from me, and I apologize if I said anything empowering, that's from the ancestors. And I appreciate you for coming today. So, in closing as well, who is jworthy@gmail.com?
He wrote out thinking outside the box.
Okay. That's homie. Okay, excellent. So, everyone, if you would like a copy of my Kabbalistic and Metaphysics Square Compass and Letter G, it's a book that I composed. It's illustrated. It's online. You don't have to wait for me to send it to you. I will email it to you. And the book is awesome. It's it covers the gambit of much of what we're speaking about. You can see here, it's descriptive. I have several, key, significant, concepts that we explored today. And it's usually $20. I'm selling it for $15. $15 in your email. And I sent it. They have internet on the Amtrak. I'm going home on the Amtrak. By the time you get home, it'll be on your computer. You can begin to read it. And, people be tripping about these computers. A lot of you all would never have even me if it wasn't for a computer. I'm not mad at the computer. I have